Yes, last year we voted no to dividing us by race, but Victoria's Labor government today launched treaty negotiations with people identifying as Aboriginal and launched it with a lie.
Today is an historic day for our state, for our strong Victorian community. And it's historic because we're about to embark on treaty negotiations that will make our strong state even stronger, even fairer, even more equal.
More equal? How does giving one group more power and public land on the basis of their race make us more equal? So what's the government thinking of giving? The more land, extra political rights? The Premier won't say.
I'm not going to rule things in or out here today. We will have those negotiations at the table. But I can confirm, in terms of what I can confirm, will be one of the key items that can be discussed is the representative body.
But the First Peoples Assembly that's negotiating this treaty, despite being elected by just 10% of Victorian Aborigines, says they're looking at things like getting power of what's taught in schools, plus earlier access to seniors cards for Aborigines, earlier than for people of any other race. So how does that make us more equal? Joining me is the panel, James Macpherson from The Late Debate here on Sky News, and Evelyn Ray, farmer, former policeman and Sky News regular. James, a treaty to give people of just one race all these extra things, good idea or bad?
It's a terrible idea, Andrew. If you're going to start treating different people differently on the basis of race, you've got to have a good rationale for it. 54% of Victorians said no to the voice. Jacinta Allen talked and talked today, but still could not really give an adequate explanation as to why we need a treaty. I listened hard, and basically she said three things. She said, because we need to listen. Well, you can listen without a treaty. In fact, it's the job of politicians to listen. Second, she said the experience of other nations that have a treaty. We'll look at New Zealand. It's not going real well there. And third, she said we need equality of outcomes, specifically in health, education, incarceration rates and lifespans. Well, this is doomed to failure because if you choose to live by a different culture, i.e. Indigenous culture, which is fine, but you can't expect Western cultural outcomes. So this is a fool's errand, which is just going to cost a lot of money. The grab you played showed the Victorian Premier saying over and over this is an historic occasion, and I think this has a lot more to do about mediocre politicians looking for a moment in the sunshine and their moment in history rather than really making a difference in Aboriginal lives. It will entrench division in our nation, and for what? To make no discernible difference, but some politicians will be able to say they did something historic.
Yes, graffiti in the history books. Evelyn, what do you make of it?
Look, I don't think any of this was ever about equality because all Australians have had equality under the law, regardless of their family group, ethnicity or race, for such a long time. I couldn't even recall a time in my own existence where that wasn't the case. No, this was always about special privilege. And what they are essentially asking for is special treatment based on purely their race. They just can't come out and say that though, Andrew. So because obviously that's the definition of racism. So what they have to do is send in the Trojan horse, and the Trojan horse in this case is white guilt. And they spend a great deal of time and money trying to convince the majority of Australians that they have inherited some kind of guilt from their great, I can't even recount how many great grandparents, back it goes. And basically they've said because of that, we've inherited all of the guilt and the responsibility to make that better. It's the oldest trick in the military book. You divide and you conquer, and it's about time politicians and Australians stop allowing that to happen and burn the Trojan horse before it comes into our gates.
Well, Evelyn's really right. This is part of a wider woke movement, James, dividing us into tribes, into races, into genders, into religious identity. And it's so perverse. Here's the latest ad even for Jaguar, which once built the most beautiful car ever made, the E-Type, but somehow has now forgotten what it's actually trying to sell. Have a look at this. So you got gays, you got trans, you got people of colour. You didn't get a single car in this ad, James.
And that's very instructive, Andrew, because Jaguar is not the product that they're selling anymore. What they're selling, and the designer of this ad admitted as much, is diversity, equity and inclusion. And if you'll excuse the play on words, the Jaguar is just the vehicle. It's not the product. The product is DEI. They're using Jaguar to sell that. Unfortunately, no one's buying DEI anymore, so no one will be buying Jaguars.
Well, or Evelyn, maybe a lot of people will go into a Jaguar showroom and say, I want a bucket of equity instead.
Look, I'm not convinced that Mercedes-Benz or BMW don't have someone on the inside trying to hijack their sales, because this is absolute suicide. I mean, how could you be so stupid, especially with Trump 2.0 era? Literally, America have said a resounding no to wokeism, and they have shot themselves in the foot.
But every one of those people in that ad, James, didn't look to me, not one of them, as a Jaguar driver.
I know. Imagine creating an advertisement campaign which is specifically designed to alienate your core customer base. That's exactly what they've done. It's like they typed into AI, please produce a 30-second commercial that will destroy our brand. And they did a terrific job. They're
trying to break into the drag market, it looks like, instead of cars.
Very good.
Very good, very good. James Macpherson, Evelyn Ray, thank you very much to you both.